Well, good morning. It's really good to be back here. If you are here for the first time, I'm Bob the Canadian, and I really enjoy teaching English on YouTube. So welcome to this live stream where we're going to talk about hobbies in English. I've done a few videos about hobbies. Hobbies are things that you do for fun. So you go to work during the day, but usually at night or on the weekend, you have hobbies, things that you do for fun and to relax. So I'm going to talk about 15 different hobbies today. Some of them you might be familiar with, and I'll kind of talk about what each of them involves. But before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you for all the kind messages that you sent me. I took a 3-week break. It's a busy time at work, so I took a 3-week break just to kind of recharge. And I think part of why I'm doing a video about hobbies is because I just took a break from YouTube, so I did a few other things. I'm not sure what that noise was. I'm excited to do a live stream this morning. I hope that people realize that I was starting 15 minutes earlier. Usually I start at 8:15, but I thought if I start at 8 o'clock, I actually have a bit more time because I need to start work in about half an hour. So I'm here before work to talk about hobbies. I was going to mention too, this is on a side note, I know you guys like to learn new things, but on the way in, I scraped my hand on the door. So I'm wearing a bandage. I'm not sure if you knew that this was called a bandage. We also in English sometimes call it a Band-Aid. So I have a bandage on my hand. It's just a small scratch. I probably didn't need a bandage, but I'm a little bit of a wimp. That means I'm a weakling. Not really. But anyways, let me say hi to everybody. Hi Misha, hi Elvin, hi Fabio, hi Uu, hi Pranny. Thank you guys so much for jumping on and watching on YouTube. I let people know on Facebook and Instagram as well, so hopefully some of those people have found their way over. But let's get started. Let's talk about some hobbies. So I'll try to hold the page higher this time. A few weeks ago I did a live stream and I kept holding the paper down here, and that didn't work so well. So hi Zabi, welcome to the live stream. So I'm just going to wait to see if this is in frame. I think it is. But the first hobby is reading. So this is a hobby that I like to do. Reading obviously is when you get a book and you take some time to sit and read the book. There's a number of ways to get books. You can borrow a book from a friend. So you might have a friend who also likes reading, and you can ask if you can borrow a book. That means that they lend you the book. The opposite of borrow is lend. And you can have the book until you're done reading it. You might go to a library and you might borrow a book from the library if you have a library card, or you might buy the book. And there's kind of two ways now to read a book. Sometimes I read a book on my Kindle. So a Kindle is a type of e-reader, we call it. So it's a small electronic device that you can read books on. But I do actually prefer just an old-fashioned book, an actual book. So first pastime, hobby, pastime are the same words, is reading. I usually sit in the same chair when I read. I have a comfy chair, a very comfortable chair, where I like to read. So one of my hobbies is definitely reading. And if you've watched my videos before, you know that I like reading science fiction and fantasy. So science fiction takes place in the future, and fantasy takes place in a world that's made up. Oh, sorry, I just turned the audio on. It was a little loud. Hobby number 2, board games. So in this picture, you see a game that we call chess, but there are all kinds of board games. Board games are usually games that you play on a table. In our house, in our back room, we actually have a table specifically for playing board games. So common board games are games like chess, games like checkers, which is played on the same board, And then there's games like Monopoly. And the game I wanted to talk about this morning is a game called Scrabble. There's a board game called Scrabble where you get letters and you have to spell words with the letters. And Scrabble is a really good game to play to practice your English. So I'll put the title in the chat. Oop, I spelled it wrong. Scrabble. Hello, Rajar. Hello, John. Hello, Irene. Hello, Arthur. Hello, it's Dylan. Hello, Abulfaz. Welcome, all of you, to the live stream this morning. So we're talking about hobbies. So far, we have talked about a little bit of review. We've talked about reading. And these papers, they don't hold up very well. And we've talked about board games. So let's move on. Another type of game, which is similar to a board game, would be a card game. So here in the picture you see that we have a deck of cards. In Canada, a deck of cards has 52 cards in it. And you can see here there's diamonds, hearts, spades, and clubs. This is probably not the best way to learn this, but this is a deck of cards and this is someone's hand. So you deal cards. So you give each person a certain number of cards. That's called dealing. And then in your hand, you have 4 different suits. So again, diamonds, hearts, spades, and clubs. And there are a number of card games. The card game that I like to play the most is called euchre. And I'm sure these games are pretty common across languages. But certainly there's a whole range of games you can play in terms of card games. There's little kid games. With my kids, we play a game called Fish. And then all the way up to the games of chance where you're actually gambling. I don't tend to play those. I'm not a gambler. Bob the Canadian doesn't like to gamble money, so I don't play things like poker. But card games are another hobby that people participate in. Let's move on. So another kind of a growing hobby for people is video games. Video games you can play on your computer. You can play video games, mobile games, I guess, on your phone. And you can play them on what we would call a console. So you see in this screen, each person has a controller. So we would call this the controller. And you can see the video game on the television in the background. Video games are often played by younger people. Although I do play video games, but I like to think that I'm younger than I am. But I do enjoy playing video games as well. Usually during the winter, I choose a video game that I really like, and I'll play that video game during the winter. Again, hi to everyone in chat. Hi Elam, hi Neil, hi Lucy, hi Buskakorn, hi Trobus, hi Baboy Lilen, that's hard to say, and hi Trin. Just talking about hobbies here, things that people do for fun. And we're going to move on to the next one. This is one that Bob the Canadian does not do, and that's sports. So sports covers everything from soccer. Some people like to play soccer for fun. I think in Europe you call it football. Some people like to play baseball. Some people like to play volleyball. And some people like to play basketball. And then there's a whole bunch of racket sports like tennis or badminton or racquetball. I think I might have mentioned that one already. That people like to play as well. So the more athletic people in the world usually have a hobby that involves playing a sport. In Canada, a lot of people play hockey during the winter. But also indoor games like volleyball are very popular, where you go to a gym and you go to a gym with some friends and you play volleyball. In terms of a hobby, a lot of people, in English we use the word league. They'll play in a hockey league, they'll play in a volleyball league. And a league is where a certain number of teams get together and they agree to have a schedule where they all play games. So as a hobby, some people do it just for fun, but some people are a little more serious and they play in a league. There's also activities that aren't competitive. So when something's competitive, that means you're trying to win. But there's also physical activities that you can do that aren't. So there's things like dance, there's things like gymnastics, there's things like yoga, and there's things like just going to fitness classes. So some people, for a hobby, they'll do something a little less competitive, and they might go and take a dance class. They might take a yoga class. So there are classes where you can pay money to learn how to dance, to learn how to do yoga and those kinds of things. Hello, Grace. Nice to see you again. And all the other people. I'm always just a little shocked when I look down and there's 47 people watching. It's normally when I teach my students in my classroom, there's about 25. But to think that there's 47 people watching this makes me a little nervous. Not really. I think I'm getting used to it. Hey, another hobby is baking. So baking is when you take ingredients, so like flour and sugar and baking powder and yeast, and you make baked goods. So baking usually results in something that's a dessert or a treat. So you usually bake things like cookies. You might bake something like croissants, but it's usually it's different than cooking, which I'll look at in a moment. Baking is usually where you're creating something that's yummy to eat. But we'll look at cooking. As a hobby, people actually sometimes take classes to learn how to cook better. So cooking is something you do every day because we all need to eat. But people also, as a hobby, like to learn how to cook. They like to explore different kinds of ways to prepare food, especially from different parts of the world. A lot of times people will take a class and they'll learn how to cook Middle Eastern food or French food or Italian food. So they like to kind of explore the world through food. It's one of the coolest ways to explore the world. If you can't afford to go somewhere on a trip, it can be fun to learn how to cook food the way people in that country cook food. So cooking is definitely another hobby. Hello, Mila. Hello, Ken Otto. Hello, Marcus. Hello, Bella. Welcome to the channel. Again, if you don't know who I am, I'm Bob the Canadian. I teach English on YouTube. I think I do an okay job, but usually I just enjoy doing it. Another hobby, just one sec, I might have to sneeze. So a sneeze, just so you know, is when you have a tickle in your nose and then you go achoo, like that. So that's what was going on there. Another hobby is writing. I don't think a lot of people do this hobby. Writing is something that some people like to do, where you sit down and you think about your day. Maybe you write stories for fun. Maybe at the end of every day, you just write down in a diary what you did that day. Some people like to journal. When you're journaling, it means that you sit down before you go to bed at night and you just kind of write down some of the parts of the day that as you remember them, the things that you did that day. Some people do that every evening, just for fun, just to kind of reflect on the day and the things that they've done that day. This is one that Bob the Canadian does not do, and that's drawing or sketching. So little kids sometimes do coloring, so they get crayons and they color. But as adults, sometimes people who are more artistic like to do some drawing. So they might have pencils, they might have markers. So you might have to look this up, but we have magic markers and we have pencil crayons, which are different colored pencils. And then we have just regular pencils for drawing. So there are people that, in order to relax at the end of the day or on the weekend, they like to get some paper and they like to get their pencils out and they like to do some drawing. And then another hobby similar to that is painting. There's people who, in order to relax and enjoy themselves, they have paint brushes. Here's a paintbrush, it's kind of hard to see, and they have their paints, and they have a canvas, and they just take some time to paint something that they love. Maybe they paint a portrait of a person, maybe they paint something that's outdoors, etc., etc. Hello again to everyone who's watching in chat. Hello, Doreen, Rajgar, Lena, and Galaxy. Welcome. Things are scrolling by fast, so it's hard for me to see everything. Another hobby that people like to do are puzzles. So the way we describe this in English is we say that people like to do puzzles, or I like to do puzzles. We don't usually call it puzzling, because when you say puzzling, it means something's hard to figure out. So we usually say that people like to do puzzles. My mom loves to do puzzles. So in the winter, my mom actually has a table in her living room, and there's always a puzzle on there, and she's always working on that puzzle. We also call them jigsaw puzzles. I'll put that in the chat, jigsaw puzzle. I think because the jigsaw was the tool they used to use a long time ago to cut out the puzzles. But my mom, yeah, she loves to do puzzles. And she usually buys a puzzle, I think every month she does a puzzle. I'll have to ask her. Do you think I should ask my mom to do a video with me? Should I do a YouTube video with my mom so you guys can meet my mom? She's a funny lady. I think you would like her. Another hobby is photography. And this is a growing hobby now. A lot of people, I think because cameras have become more affordable, that means that it's still a lot of money, but it's within reach. People can afford to buy cameras now. And because the cameras are digital, I think it's easier to take lots of pictures. So a lot of people are, let me get this back again. A lot of people are getting into photography where they just get a nice camera and they're outside. So Galaxy is asking a question about puzzle. I'll hold this closer. I don't know if that'll help you, Galaxy, but a puzzle is something where it's a picture and it's cut into all little pieces. And then you have to take time to match the pieces together until you create the whole picture. Maybe I'll see if I can find a link to an online puzzle so you can understand, but some people really like to do that kind of thing. Two more and we're done, folks. This is an old-fashioned kind of hobby, and it's stamp collecting. I don't think a lot of people do this anymore, but stamp collecting is when you collect the stamps that people put on envelopes when they send things around the world. Because you probably realize, strange noise coming, I'll just put this over here. I think it's actually my phone. Stamp collecting is when you collect the stamps from different countries around the world from when people mail things. I'm not a stamp collector, but so many people have sent me postcards. I have a nice little collection now. I have stamps from Germany, I have stamps from Taiwan, from Thailand, from Indonesia, from Italy, from France. It's really cool. So maybe I should start stamp collecting. We'll see. Last one, and again, there's many, many hobbies, but the last hobby that I'm going to talk about is gardening. So some people in the warmer months of the year, they like to go outside and they like to grow plants. So you see this man is planting seeds in the ground. There are a lot of people who like to get their hands in the dirt, we say. So they like to go outside, they like to grow things. They grow flowers or they grow vegetables. And they just like to go out and tend to their garden, T-E-N-D, tend. They need to get rid of the weeds. Weeds are the plants that grow that you don't want. And so gardening, a lot of people find it very relaxing, especially if they work inside all day. They like to go outside to do some gardening. So anyways, that's all the time I have, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I hope the time change is okay. I am planning on starting at 8 o'clock every Friday instead of 8:15. It just makes my life a little nicer in the morning. And I will scan through and answer a few questions now. I do have 5 minutes. So the first question is, I'm 30 years old. Am I too old to learn English? My friends keep saying you're not going to be good in it. So here's the thing. When you're older, the most difficult thing about learning a language is being able to pronounce things correctly. But there is nothing stopping you from being able to understand people, to read in that language, and write in that language perfectly. You will honestly most likely always have an accent. Because I learned French later in life, when I speak French I have an accent, but I have no problem watching French television or having a conversation with a French person or writing in French. So for you in English Galaxy, I think that just realize that you'll need to work really hard so that you don't have an accent. And it depends on what language you speak now. Let me know in chat what your current language is. Some people end up, like if you're Italian and you learn English, you end up with a beautiful accent. So it just depends on what language you're coming from. Hassan says, my kids approve of gardening. So that's cool. Neil asks, is there any difference between Canadian English and American English? So slight differences. We are very close cousins in our languages. And usually what I tell people is that I went to university in the United States and I had zero problem understanding Americans or getting good grades and being a good student. We just have a little bit of a different flavor to our language. And there are a few spellings that are slightly different, but Canadian English and American English does sound very, very similar. So it's usually no problem to learn both. Connie says, hi. I'm just gonna scroll back for a minute, everyone, just to see if there's any questions. How to use have and has to in another way. That's from Hamza. Yeah. So when I have to do something and he has to do something, that's a tricky one for me to explain on the fly, like off the top of my head. But I'm going to have to think about that one, and maybe I'll do a video, a grammar video on that. That would be good. So a lot of people saying they love painting. I know John mentions that his wife likes Chinese calligraphy. That's when you do really artistic lettering, so that's really cool. Galaxy says, hey, my name is actually Talal, so hello, Galaxy. Oh, sewing. Rajgar says that sewing. So sewing is when you make clothes, is also teaching, or sorry, a hobby. Dancing, yes, very cool. Anyways, let's wrap this up. I need to teach my other class, the ones that will be coming here in a few minutes. Again, I'm Bob the Canadian. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for patiently waiting for me while I took a break to just, in English we say just to recharge my batteries, just to kind of re-energize. Sometimes it's nice to take a break. But I have several months of videos and live streams coming up. So new video coming out Tuesday, and I'll see you guys next Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's what we would say as 1300 GMT. I can't say my times right, but I will post it. But thank you again for watching. I hope this was helpful. Don't forget to watch it again later to help reinforce what you're learning. It's always good to watch things 2 or 3 times. Happy to do this, and just happy to, just to see you guys again. Have a good day. Bye. Just gonna click over here and turn this off, and